Blocking out architectural drawings is the key to success for creating a very crisp, clean final drawing. So today I'm going to walk you through how to block out a drawing, and then later we'll go ahead and implement that drawing into your final set of work. The key to blocking out a drawing is to be able to first take the drawing that you're going to be putting on your tracing paper, and in this case we have an 1/8 of an inch drawing. We are going to blow it up to 1/4 of an inch on our piece of tracing paper. So first thing we need to do is take this 1/8 inch drawing and scale it out. Once we create all of the dimensions, we're able to then take those dimensions and in 1/4 of an inch, place them on a piece of tracing paper. Now, if you'd like to use vellum, you can, but there's no sense. We will be transferring this document onto vellum, and vellum's very expensive, so we like to block out in what we call flimsy or tracing paper. So we will be doing this in class, but I'll just give you an idea. Here's our floor plan. This is the first floor, and this is the second floor. Once again, they're an 1/8 inch scale. So remember, on our scale, all of the smaller numbers represent the smaller scale. The larger numbers represent the 1/4 inch scale. So imagine this is like we're far away from this space and we walk towards it and it's going to double in size. So we always dimension from the outside of the wall to the outside of the wall. I have drawn up lines. These are called dimension lines. They're extension lines, and they have areas where I can write the actual length in feet and inches. First thing we like to do is kind of give an overall rectangle. What's the overall size? And we will put that on our paper. Then we start to carve out as we place it on the paper from the outside in. So it's a time-consuming process, but once you lay out your dimensions, life is so much easier. So remember, if you go from one corner of the wall to the next corner of the wall, and you will be laying out that dimension. In my case, I have, here is 21, 22, right here. So as I look on this, and I'm going really from left to right, it's 1/8 inch. And in my case, yours might be a little different because it might print differently, but it looks kind of like I am maybe 22 and 4 inches. So from here to here, right there is 22, 4 inches. So 22 feet and 4 inches. So you will do that all the way around all the different spaces. So I want to get an overall just to this corner to this corner. And the first thing I do is I create a block. Now let's go with the overall height this way. And so we're just getting our rectangle going. So I want to go from this corner to that very corner. And so I'm going to go to the nearest, and that's 24, 25, 26 feet. And how many inches? 6. So I have 26 feet, 6 inches. Now your printer may print this a little bit off in a different size, maybe off a few inches. That's why I'm not going to be a stickler, but this is important that you're consistent throughout this whole space and you're measuring exactly from one corner to the next. Now when we meet in breakout rooms, we'll be doing a lot of this in class. So right now I have for this dimension 22 feet. Now over here it said 22.4, so I really just got to look and say, well, you know, I could be a little off because my thicknesses. So let me just make sure I'm right on task. So obviously these should be the same. So once again, 22.4 inches. Obviously that's going to be the same. So as we start to fill in these dimensions, it's going to make life easy, and it'll be easy to transfer onto blocking. Now as we transfer onto the blocking, once we fill in all these dimensions, then you start to measure from the outside to the next little element. And in this case, mine was 18 inches. It was 1.5 feet. Remember, it's pretty small. So that's 1 foot, 6 inches. Our windows, that is a window. is exactly, let's see, we're at 6 feet, 0 inches. And that, my friend, is 1 foot. So as you see that this is kind of tedious, but you go through and measure every component, and that's for when you start adding architectural features. Standard doors are always 3 feet, and boom, there it is, 3 feet. So you're going to get a little cramped here, but that's okay. You can utilize different parts of this drawing. This is exactly 6 feet. And then these little window here, this one is 1, 2, this is 2 feet, 6 inches. See? Now once you get a dimension, because this is kind of the, and you know, you almost don't have to dimension that because you have your overall dimension, so it doesn't really matter. Now this is a little jet out here. You're gonna go from that corner to this corner, so we wanna make sure that that is also dimensioned. And that is going to be 2 feet, 6 inches. Okay, so now we've got a string of dimensions. We want to give ourselves an overall rectangle. This will fit on an about 8.5 by 11 piece of tracing paper, but you can get a larger size if you want. And this is when you start to kind of figure out your overall. So don't forget now, you've got to change to 1/4 of an inch. 22.4, so where's 22? There's 22. And 4 inches is right there, okay? So now that's your first line. You will pull this up and give yourself your first line for your rectangle. There it is. So now we know that that's that wall. The next, let's give us our vertical line, 26 feet, 6 inches. And so you will go ahead and once again place your 1/4 inch scale, and you're going to go to 26, let me find that, 26 and 6 inches. So as you look through this space, I'm going to make sure you pull this down, give yourself enough room. You are going to find 26, remember the larger numbers reference the larger scale, 26 and 6 inches right here. Okay, from that point to that point. So you're going to be doing a lot of dots like that. And that's when you get your big triangle and you connect it and you make sure that you get yourself a very perfect rectangle, and then you start to carve on the from the outside in. And so as you start to do that, and remember that I always going to line up, you just got to line up right to where you put the little tick mark. And now we know that this is a perfect rectangle. Let's start off with our perfect rectangle. And that's okay to go over lines and stuff, because the key is that this is your block out drawing. And this is where you want to make sure that, you know, you can have a little, you know, extra, you know, crossover lines and so forth. So you start with your basic rectangle, then you carve out the little architectural elements. And that's when you really start putting your scale down here, 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 here. So we want to create our overall shell. But I have to tell you what's very important is that all your exterior walls are 6 inches. 6 inches. But your interior walls are 4 inches. So we first want to lay out our exterior walls being 6 inches. And that's really, really important that we get that right. So when you look at those inches, your exterior walls are going to be 6 inches, so a little thicker. So you go through the whole perimeter from the outside in. We always go from the outside in, and we put a little tick mark for 6 inches. Remember, you must be very accurate when you're doing this, because your entire rest of your drawings will be based on this drawing. So when you get that little tick mark as 6 inches, right, you want to make sure, remember, because we're dealing with 1/4 inch. So you start blocking in those walls, and you want to make sure that you kind of make your little tick mark exactly where it needs to be. You start blocking in those walls. Once again, you take your parallel bar and you move it up, and we're creating our rectangle with our walls. And that is very important. My little board is kind of going cuckoo right now. It's getting stuck. Somehow it's off. Okay, there we go. And so we're going to finish this up right here. And as you can see, this process is something that is time consuming. That's why give yourself some time. But dimensioning is going to save a ton of time because you'll just have to, you can refer to the information. So I've created my outside walls, and they're thicker than the regular walls. Then we want to start to carve out these architectural elements, and that's when it's, once again, you're on your scale, and if you redimension this fast, I'm not going to do it all right now, but you'll see that that is, let's see, a little over a foot. So once again, this is 1 foot 6 inches, and let's see what this is. It's outside to outside, and it's exactly, and this little guy 8 feet. So that's 8 feet. So that gives us a little indication of, so we go over to my 1/4 inch. That's the hard part, is you don't want to just go over 18 inches. That's where that pop out's going to start, and it's going to be 8 whole feet. 8 whole feet for this window. 8 whole feet. So that window is going to pop out. And how far does it pop out? We have our dimension, 2, 6. So go here, and don't forget to use that scale. So it's going to pop out to there. Okay? So once again, you know, we're going to drag our parallel bar, and we're going to get that nice pop out window and that architectural feature right there. So you want to make sure that we line everything up correctly and get that done. And like I said, it could kind of go over and you cross the lines. And then put your triangle and then where the little dot is, because you've ticked it off. Okay. So as you can see, I'm now just carving out the space. Then I'll go into this and I'll measure the windows at 6 inches all the way around. This is when later on you can erase all the different components. Next, you'll go ahead and carve out that window by finding out this dimension, and this dimension, how far it pops out. Once you start to get the outside shell, you'll start to carve in the inside. And this is when you will measure across here and you find out where that wall starts. So once you do that, you can start to create and lay out your interior walls. So you go from outside and remember this is 1/4 or 1/8 inch. Sorry, I want to get on the right scale here. And that's very important. That's something that will take a little bit. That's why I like to do everything once in 1/8 inch here and then once in 4/4 inch, because it can get confusing. So this is exactly 8 feet right here. From this corner to this corner. So when I measure from the outside 8 feet, I'm able to find out exactly right here where that wall is. And now I can go ahead and kind of create a line. See, I don't have to be perfect right now. Now I'm starting to carve out the interior walls. So I've gone from this outside to the outside, and then we want to find out what is the entire length of this. So if you measure it in advance, I'm not doing that because we're going to do it in class, you won't have to keep putting the scale on. But it sure makes life easy, and then you can just stick. So this is 1/2 foot, and this is 16, 17, 18 feet, 18.5 feet. So I will go 18.5 feet right here. And remember the bigger, 18.5. And boom, there is that one section right here of this wall. Sorry. So this is really important to have your reference drawing. For some reason, this is being difficult for me. It's not behaving. So please excuse my parallel bar. I hope yours is much easier. So as we get here, and now I have now started to carve out that section of the space. Then you will go in only 4 inches, because those are 4-inch walls. You'll go in 4 inches. You'll go in 4 inches. And you'll now create this triangle or this little rectangle. And that's basically what you do, is you start from the outside, you start blocking it in and just creating all your architectural details. So start with the outside with 6-inch walls, carve in, and start going into from the outside in, outside in. The very last thing is then you start laying out your scale and start putting these smaller details in. Now, I have to say it's very important, and I did not mention this, but you will need one of these home planning templates. The home planning templates will give you these perfect door swings. They actually have various sizes. They also have toilets and bathtubs. We want to make sure that you use a template for all these components. They even have a little different sinks and little stove circles, and you can alternate these circles with smaller circles if it doesn't fit. But you want to make sure you use a template. This template is different than the furniture template, but this template is extremely important to create a nice, clean kitchen. Don't forget also an architectural column. That's what that little X stands for. We will do the same thing on this. This is the second floor. So imagine this floor is laid on top. Once you start laying out the outside for the first plan, all you have to do for the second plan is actually copy it, just the rectangle we know. This little area is the overhang, and then you have very few dimensions to do for the second floor. Imagine that this is a loft. This loft will set right to this column, come straight down here, and it's going to rest along the stairwell. So really the second floor is really a line that goes to the column and straight down. So it's going to be very easy once you do your first floor plan to go ahead and mimic that on the second. So you've got to get this right and get that footprint, and then when you do the second, you'll do the same thing. You won't need to do all this block out. You'll be able to trace it with your new block out and add your new lines, and that will be your second floor. Once you get the drawing done, like I've done here, I start carving out all the major components. I am ready now to actually put this onto my final drawing in my title block that we just made. So the reason why we have this now is now we can position that where it needs to go on the title block, and that will make a very clean drawing. Also, the north arrow is very important. And when you start to do different drawings, the reason why we always, if we're doing a landscape horizontal drawing, we often might want to play with the orientation of this drawing, and we will see what is the best way to lay out this drawing on our picture plane. So here I have my blocked out drawing now, and I'm ready to put it inside my final floor plan drawing. As you can see, blocking out a drawing is quite a process, but really necessary so that you can have a great draft and go ahead and create a fantastic final drawing.